it's that relentless pursuit to be great. And that's what I tell boys. It doesn't mean you're going to be great, but it's the mindset of, I'm going to do what I can to separate myself from the next guy, because that's what's going to be the difference, you know?
All right, so I appreciate you coming on, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
I've been trying to nail you down for a while. I know you've been traveling. So just for, so we get started here, can you just introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, what you do?
Jeremy Powell, professional baseball coach. I pitched for about 17 years as a player, and took a year off after playing and got into coaching in 2012, and been coaching ever since, working for the Miami Marlins. And as a pitching coach, just kind of started at the lower levels like I did as a player back out of high school, and kind of worked my way as a coach up through the system. And last 6 years in AAA, which is just below the major league level, helping facilitate guys getting to the big leagues and fulfilling their dream. You know?
Okay, yeah. So you were pitching coach. Like, I know when I did JUCO, like when I got done with football, it was, for me, it was finding something to fill that void. And so I got into coaching, and I know for the JUCO level, it was so difficult, because you got those kids out there where the JUCO is like limbo. I mean, you know how that is. It's like, you didn't do what you needed to do in high school, so you couldn't make it to college. So now you're this JUCO, and now it's everybody else's fault but your own. So it was like getting through to those kids. Like, what's the minor league like? Because I always, when I'm on here, I compare the minor league to, I compare the NIL and the modern day football to minor league. Like, what is minor league like for these guys when they're there?
It's an opportunity for them to become major league players. And, there's so much to be learned in baseball to play it at its highest level, that there are level specific things they got to go through, and so there's the 5 or 6 different levels in the minor leagues. And, there's things they have to learn, and both on and off the field. And that's just the system we're in, where they move up each level, and the caliber of play gets better and better. And, they develop, and, they develop physically and mentally, and you just watch guys get better. For me, it was when I got done playing, I didn't know what was going to happen with me as far as mentally. Would I regret retiring from playing? Would I, in 6 months, would I want to go back? In a year, would I regret it, right? But, for me, it was like a monkey off my shoulders, and was able to kind of just step back. And, my last couple of years playing, I was kind of considered a veteran minor league player. I'd already been to the major leagues and back. I'd already been overseas and back. And so the end of the road for me as a player was kind of, the writing was on the wall. I kind of took on that role a little bit, even as a player at the end, helping the younger guys I was playing with. And so, for me, thinking about what I could give back, for me to get back into the game as a coach, I started at the lowest level as a coach, and it was a little bit of kind of just retain that identity back, like I'd been doing this for so long and been gone every summer, and it's kind of all I knew out of high school. So for me, it was like, I need to chase that identity, get back into the uniform, get back onto the field.
Smell that grass.
and doing that. So I did that, and it was great for me. And then you just kind of like chase the dream of being a major leaguer as a coach, just like you did as a player,
So you came out of high school and went straight into the league. I know for me, I was a screw up when I went from high school to college. You instantly get there, and you have no money at the time. All you have is the bare necessities, but you're on college campus and you're partying. My mindset would not have been ready to be out in the real world as 17, 18-year-old young man. How was that adjustment for you? Did you have people living with you? Did you have people there helping you, or were you out on your own?
No, you're kind of on your own. I'd never really been that far away from home, so for me it was a big adjustment. But, you have other players, teammates, roommates, groups of guys that you're with all the time. And the organization takes care of you, coaches, trainers, people, front office staff. They're all there to kind of take care of you in that way. There's hotels you're at that they take care of. They set you up with apartments or what have you, whatever level you're at, the affiliate you're at. But they take care of us, and you have your group of guys that you're with, and so you all just kind of, how a team is, so guys take care of each other and are chasing kind of that dream together, And so I never really had the actual college lifestyle as far as being on a campus, but we kind of lived that same lifestyle. We were together. We did things together. We went out, did our thing, and we were on the field together. We competed together. So it was kind of that lifestyle a little bit, but and you just Just work your way through. You know?
I mean, because when I was looking at everything about you, and I'm like, wow, he went straight from high school to the pros. And just for me, I just know from being mature, I wouldn't have been ready. And I know Justin Crawford. That's Deuce's like best friend. I know the family. And I just remember when he got drafted in the minors, it was just like, wow, he was just playing football with me. He's 18 years old, and now he's in the minors, and now he's in the real world. And that made me really, it almost scared me for a moment, because I'm like, what if they had that in college football? Like, if college football wasn't college, it was like the minor leagues. Would my son be ready for that? Then I started thinking, would I have been ready for that? And I know I wouldn't have been mature enough for that. That would have never happened.
Yeah.
I'd have been caught up in the partying. I'd have got caught up in the lifestyle. At 17, 18 years old, I would have did all the bad stuff.
No, it definitely requires a big support system, and I mean, when I would come back from the season, I would live at home my first 3 or 4 years in pro ball in the minor leagues. I would go play my season, go to spring training, go play, and then when I got home, go live back at the house and be at the house. And
mom and dad take out the trash,
right? So it's like it requires a support system. And then as you mature and get older, you start kind of getting on your own and getting in your own place in the off season and taking care of you start adulting, right?
Yes. So absolutely.
That takes a few years, because at 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm not really ready to be on my own. No. During the season, I've got the team kind of takes care of me, right? Yeah. Hotels on the road, that's taken care of. Yeah, we get together with teammates and live together, so we're kind of helping each other out. And then as you mature and get older, move up the levels, you start realizing that you're kind of out on your own, even in the off season. So that's kind of where that transition happens.
Yeah. That's just amazing to me. Like I said, I don't want to keep harping on my immaturity. But,
yeah, right.
Being out there like that would have just been like overwhelming for me. I'd have been calling home constantly, like, Mom, what do I do? How do I pay a bill? What number do I call for this? I would have just been like,
that's all part of that process. College football, I would say, it equates to the minor leagues, like where you go. That's part of that weeding out process, right? Yeah. Guys that can make it through and get to the highest level and have success are the ones that can manage that, right? Yeah. Where nobody's perfect, you kind of get through it. You do some things, you make bad choices, you come out of that, you learn, you move on, and that's kind of part of that weeding out process is becoming a professional athlete, right? And actually able to perform and perform at that level. Absolutely. And be consistent.
That's why some guys, it's just like in the NFL, is why some guys can't make it through college, because they don't know how to prepare for classes. It's each level you go, is just more and more is required of you, and they just start weeding out more and more people. Now, we were talking before all the cameras started rolling, and you said you regretted not playing football in high school. Now, I want to go back to that, because when I was, you're 6'5", so my mind instantly, as I'm looking at your stats, I'm like, 6'5" in high school. Like, why didn't he ever play football? Yep. And so, like, why was that? Why didn't you play?
Well, I got those same questions, going through high school.
Hey, son, come on over here.
But I was so heavily involved in basketball and baseball, bouncing those back and forth and juggling those, and with school and friends, it was just, that's kind of what I did. I just was never really exposed to tackle football at a younger age to be able to develop that passion. Yeah. I do remember, watching friends play, or in high school going to the games on Friday nights, and kind of like, I should go do that.
Yes,
but
you should have.
But with a busy schedule, and kind of my path that I was going down, and I always had a pretty good arm, so I always throwing was I always loved to do that, and so I was playing baseball at a really high level, even at a younger age, and basketball was my true passion, and so with both of those, the pathway I was going, it was going to be one of those, That's the reason I didn't, but that's why I get to enjoy my kids right now.
Absolutely.
I get to enjoy my boys do it, and for me, it's great, because my off-season time is football season time.
Oh, so perfect timing.
It's perfect timing for me to be able to watch them, plug in and watch them do their thing.
So how different is it, the whole football recruitment and the football process? Because you didn't go through the football process, you went through the baseball process, but now your boys are going through football. Like, what are the similarities? What are the differences? Are there any differences, or are they the same?
I mean, there's a lot of similarities. I think, baseball, there were some college coaches out and around when I was going through high school, but really it was the pro coaches that were out. And I think I made it known pretty early on that I was going to sign and go pro if I got drafted. So that's kind of the pathway I went. College, the experience we're getting with our kids is, it's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of keeping in touch. It's a lot of interest at a young age. And then, they stay interested or they don't, right?
Yeah,
and so, some of the schools kind of fall off as they get through, and a lot of them stay in touch throughout the whole process. And so it's just a lot of communication through that process, and depending on the level of recruit you are, the heavier it gets or the lighter it is. So, we've kind of experienced a little bit of both in that regard, but it's been fun, a little bit of a grind at times.
Very
because,
much a grind.
as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid in high school, there's other priorities, school, there's things that they've got to go through, and the recruiting process can become a little bit of a grind. And so, fortunately, we're able to kind of work through it with them and have them settle on a home,
Yeah. I mean, you've got 3. So, I mean, your oldest son was down at U of A with Deuce. And I just remember that process. I went through it. And I just remember it just being overwhelming for me and my mom when we got all that information. College is calling because you've never done it before. You don't have anybody to really turn to. So when he was going through it, I was there to kind of take on all that information. I was that barrier between him and those colleges. Did you do the same thing for your boys?
I did, but kind of in the background. My wife handles all that and I was out of town for a lot of that process. So thank God for her. I mean, she's been their rock through that process, and me kind of in the background on the phone, kind of helping them out, and both of us just kind of supporting them. And, they need that support. Like I said, that support system's huge, and to be able to kind of filter some of that stuff. But, I'll say that, just kind of watching how it all went, for Tyler at U of A is they took care of him. I mean, they set him up in those apartments. They all had their own room. I mean, it was very similar to the minor leagues, but it was actually a little better than what I remember experiencing and what I know guys experience at the lowest levels of minor leagues. They really took care of those guys. They feeding them, putting them up in apartments, and so there were, again, that transition from going from home into that scenario was great for them, because they're not. It's not like we took them to college and just dropped them off and then they had to find their way.
Right.
We took them to college, handed them over to a staff. Fortunately for us, our kids were, on a scholarship, so that they were being taken care of.
Absolutely.
A little bit
That's
different.
Always a blessing.
It was great.
I was just so it was great for me because, going through that whole process, and, for Deuce, when he got that call from U of A, he was so excited because he was a little bit under the radar kind of recruit. So, for him, he got that call from U of A that really meant a lot to him. And so I think from a very early on, recruitment standpoint, he knew that's where he wanted to go. Tyler was a little bit bigger recruit than that, so he didn't have that problem. But what ultimately this was a family decision that said U of A is the spot for us?
I think the best answer is just relationship, right? The relationship he built with Coach Powell, the tight ends coach at the time. Coach Powell had recruited him when he was at UNLV, and then when he moved to Arizona, he recruited him there too. So, I think the ultimate thing was the relationship he built with him, and obviously proximity to the house.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
So not
that was
being
wonderful.
too far away was a blessing for my wife and I to be able to go see him, and he can come home when he needed to come home. Yeah. So that was always good, but. Just kind of boiled down to that. He went to the official visit, loved it there, and the relationship, and just kind of felt like home. Yeah.
That was a very similar thing for us. I mean, we went there, and I think Deuce knew after the visit, this is where I want to be, this is where I want to go, because for me, and obviously we've experienced, our sport at a high level, so you understand the BS that comes with it. You understand, dude, don't listen to that. That's not real.
Yep.
And so I remember just sitting down and talking with him, and I say but it was the family. And one of the main things I wanted him to understand was, do you want to go somewhere, sit on the bench and get a couple rings and never really play? Or do you want to go somewhere where you're going to have an opportunity to play? Your dream, your goal is to play in the NFL. What do you want to do? And he said, Dad, I want to play football. I want to get on the field. I don't care about all the rings if I'm not part of that.
Right.
And I said, well, then U of A is the spot for you, because, they were coming off 1-11.
Yep.
They were, I'm not going to say disarray, but it was kind of cleaning house and getting all the right people in there. And so once he said, I want to play, and I said, U of A is the spot for you, we never looked back.
Yep. Yeah. No, and that's kind of the question you have to answer, right? Is how quickly do you want to play? Are you ready to play at that level now? Or do you go to a place where that opportunity comes to you sooner, or do you go to a place that you're being recruited where it's in a bigger conference where at practice, iron sharpens iron, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we had to kind of deal with a little bit with Logan, our middle one. who settled on committing to Wisconsin, was like, U of A was in play. His brother's there, close to home, and other schools were in play. And that was a real question we had to answer and talk with him about is, do you want to go to a place where you might have an opportunity to play sooner, or do you want to go to a place where, you look to kind of redshirt, but you're around the bigger kids in a bigger conference, and is that going to get you better in the big picture of it all, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what you have to answer is are you ready to play now? Do you want to play now?
Yeah.
Maybe get to the league sooner, or is that your development going to benefit you down the road? And I think for both of our boys, I think redshirting is a great thing.
It is absolutely.
I think that year of development, physically, mentally, out of the house, not in the house anymore. All of that is when you look big picture for these kids, it's a good thing. It's another extra year of school.
Yeah, absolutely.
That year of development time where you're not really worried about trying to play and that stress of I got to get out there. It's like, okay, I'm just going to learn.
Yep.
Just be physical in the background, just playing and getting better. And I think it's a good thing either way. It's just a matter of what fits you and your family.
What fits that family. But I'm with you on that. Redshirting is so great. I mean, obviously you've got some great kids out there. I think it's the young man from Alabama who's like 17 years old.
Yes.
That's
amazing.
Special. Yep. That's special. You need to play. But for most kids, you're not ready to play at such an early age, especially at that high of a level. And I've talked about it in past episodes. I've even done little shorts about it. It's not a bad thing to redshirt.
Right.
I mean, it's only going to be easier for you. It gives you more time to get things done. You're not like, for me, redshirting, I felt like was the best thing I could have done as a true freshman. Coming in, like I said, I wasn't ready mentally to play, physically. So that year of maturity and kind of messing up and then learning from that and learning that, hey, man, you can't keep messing up. These people like you, but you can't keep burning bridges. So I had to grow up real fast, and I had to learn that they have a plan for you. Like when you're one of their guys, they recruited you, they spent money on you. Their homes, their family vacations are predicated off of how well we play. So it was like learning that whole process. So to be able to pass that information on to that younger generation is just so good. And I think I'm sure that's why your son is prospering. That's why Deuce is prospering, because you've had parents who've played at a high level. Now, your baby boy, we were talking about him. No, that's funny because he is the best athlete, you said. I'm not going to get you in trouble. Sorry, boys.
No. They understand. I've always said that. He always had the motor skills at an earlier age than the other two. The ability to kind of adapt to different sports, kind of a little better than the other two at that age. So I saw it early on, but you never know where they go with it, right? I mean, our goal as parents with all three of them were to just expose them to everything.
Absolutely.
Not get caught up in being a one sport kid. Let's play let's play them all. Whatever's in season. That's kind of how we grew up. That's what makes you kind of a better athlete,
I think
right?
So too,
they all provide things for you as an athlete to get better at, right? Football, the physical, basketball, footwork, baseball, whatever it is, arm strength or whatever. So, we tried to expose them all, and Brady. Brady kind of always had that. He had the ability to throw a ball and hit a ball and catch a ball. And so we didn't know where he would go with that. And so to watch him kind of flourish as a freshman in high school in football, and we know he loves basketball, and so he's the younger one, right? He kind of got beat up a little bit.
I was going to say he's always there throwing balls at him, getting hit, knocked down.
Yeah, and that's been the beauty of having boys is they've all kind of beat each other up a little bit and kind of made each other better in that regard.
Absolutely.
So it's been fun to watch him kind of come up and do his thing too. Yeah.
So, you go through this more than I will, because I just have the one son, but you have three. So you're kind of staggered in what you're seeing. Like with this, the whole route where college football is heading now, how are you feeling about that? Because I know I played college football. I know when it was you weren't getting paid, you got the bare minimum. Any little infraction, you could lose your scholarship over. So to see it go from like a Stone Age, dark age to now where it's, dare I say, it's teetering on being out of control. Like, what are your thoughts on where football is, how it's affecting your kids, how it's affecting your choices with your younger ones?
Yeah, the reality is college football in particular, because that's what we're around, is becoming a professional sport now. I mean, that's just the reality of the business of it now. And I think it's a little bit, it's robbing these kids of kind of that after high school, before pro ball, that experience of amateur sports still, right? Student athlete. It's robbing them a little bit of it. And I'd be be sitting here naive to think that we're not worried about that, the money part of it, because that is a fact of it. And I want my boys to look at it like an opportunity to get better. If professional football is where you end up down the road, let's be where you are today. Let's get better today. Let's be a student. Let's make sure we have good grades. Let's experience college and have a normal college life. And it's hard, right? It's hard with what's going on. And to me, teams that win are teams that come together. Teams that win have a culture in the locker room, right? You and I, we've experienced that at a high level. And it's hard now because the loyalty, the bottom line is the loyalty is not there it should be, right? No. From the player side, from the coach's side, even coaches are jumping ship and leaving too. So, there's that's hard to come by, a winning team where they're together because they're committed to that program, or they're committed to those guys for a period of time. Now it's really become a little bit more individualized, right? I'm going to do well so I can go get in the portal and go get my bag somewhere else.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think it's robbing that sense of community as far as each school. And so but it is the reality.
It is very much a reality.
Our kids have a great focus on, I'm not worried about the money. I just want the opportunity. I want to go where home is. I got to live in that city. And that's kind of what our guys' focuses are. And that's good. But we still have to keep in mind the reality is it's in front of our face, and if there's an opportunity there, you'd be
stupid not to take it.
Not to look at it, right? So that is part of it, and hopefully we can guide them and have some support along the way to kind of help make a decision if it ever gets in front of us like that.
And that's the exact same mindset that we have in my house, is that I loved when I was in college. I had a great time. I know you'll hear me sometimes on here complain about, the money. But at the end of the day, I didn't want for anything when I was in college. I had food. I had clothes on my back. I had a house. We were pretty popular around campus. So it wasn't like, oh, my God, how am I going to make it? I don't know what I'm going to do. So, and that was what I tried to instill in my son as well. When you're making these decisions, put the money to the side. The money's always going to come. If you go somewhere, wherever you are, if you're playing at a high level, the money's going to find you. So go where you're happy, go where you're wanted, go where you could be successful. But I'm also, Deuce has never had $2 million thrown at him.
Right.
It's easy to sit here, from the passenger side and talk about what you would do. The co-pilot is always, I would have done this.
That's right.
So when that money's in front of you, it's like, how do you turn down millions of dollars, six figures? Like, it's become like, gosh, you're just buying kids. If you're at a smaller university, you put in your time for 2 years. Now here come the big boys to poach you if you've played well. And it's just, I remember what it was like for me playing in college, and I loved my time in college, and I don't think I would change it for too many things. I mean, I think because when you start introducing the money, all the evils come with that.
That's right.
I know I'm old school. I'm probably gonna get some flack for this, but it's like I watch these kids, and it's like they wear so much jewelry, and I'm just like, man, y'all are making yourselves targets. You're making yourselves easy. I mean, it's just some evil people out there. So I see the bad in it, but it's just like you said, it's the reality of where we are in sports, and it's just what we have to deal with.
No, I mean, they really, for me, they really need to control it. They need to try to control this as much as they can here, whether it's kids coming out, with a scholarship offer and they sign a letter of intent. It's a 2-year contract, something to where it kind of instills a little bit of just loyalty, man. A little bit of commitment, right? Or these kids are committing, and how do we, it's got to be hard for the coaches and for the recruiting process. That, you feel like they've got to over recruit every position group and every year because they don't know who's coming and going. And from the player side, the reality is you don't know what coaches are coming and going. The experience that we've had, they'll leave, right? So, and players will too. So, that's just the reality of it. And you just try to balance that as best you can as a parent, know?
I mean, I watch it, and it's almost cringeworthy sometimes when you watch these kids and they're making these rash decisions, like the young man from Sluka. From Nevada. It's like there's three sides to that story. There's his story, the university, and the truth. And we're all out here judging the kid, and we're saying, well, we don't know what happened. Right. But it's gotten to a point now where they're holding out. It's like, I'm going to hold you hostage because I'm your starting quarterback. We're 3-0. I know you may have promised me that. I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but guess what? I have you by the, you know what?
Yep.
And so I want more money, or I want to play more, because I think there was another young man, Bear, from USC. He's doing it.
Yep.
Another running back from UNLV. So it's like you said, there needs to be some kind of contract. It's like, I don't know, like a 2-year deal where you can't go anywhere. And then if somebody does try to come along and poach you, there needs to be some kind of exit fee, or I don't know what it is, but it's just getting out of control.
You know, it's this instant gratification society we live in, right? I mean, you know, it used to be you experienced high school, enjoyed it with your guys, played at a high level, you got a scholarship, you got into your college, and you played for each other for 4 years. And then the lucky ones that went on to the league, now it's about, okay, now I got a chance to go make some money.
Yeah.
That's being skipped right over now and getting right to the money part. So it's become all about that. And, you know, I liken it to baseball, you know, in the draft in baseball, right? We draft first round picks. They're getting $5 and $6 and $8 and $10 million right out of the draft. They haven't played a professional inning yet. And so it's that instant money, right? It's that instant gratification. And so where the minor leagues used to be looking at the big picture of like the incentive of getting there, right? And now they're getting it right away. And so the earlier they get it, the more they're going to want to get, right? So yeah, we there's got to be some sort of control for sure. You know?
It is getting out of control. But, you know, I always like to get parents on here who have kids and kind of get their idea, because we've played and, you know, we're in a situation where we worked hard for our families so that our kids aren't making rash decisions based on money. You know, we put them in a situation where, don't get me wrong, money's going to help, but you're not hungry for it right now.
Right.
Don't let that be what you're chasing, because I tell my son all the time, once you start chasing money, you'll be chasing it the rest of your life. And that's why I just think that something needs to be done. And I wish I had it, because if I did, I'd be a billionaire.
That's right.
If I had how to fix it, I'd be, let's go. This is how you go to fix it. But I always, when I talk to people towards the end, what would you tell a young Jeremy in high school? If you knowing what you know about life, you can go back and you could talk to a young Jeremy. What would you tell him?
I would tell him to you know, put the work in, right? Live for today, be where your feet are, and don't have regrets. Like don't cut corners, right? Put the work in that's required. Do what others won't do, right? Like separate yourself from the next guy, and you know, a day at a time, and just be relentless in your work and your process, right? And just enjoy it, right? Enjoy the ride, because it goes fast. And you know, I tell all my players, you know, whether you put in 20 years in the big leagues or you never get past AA, like enjoy it, because it goes fast, and don't have regrets. And so, you know, for me, I would just tell a young Jeremy, just live for each day, man. Do the best you can every day, and don't take shortcuts.
That's solid, because cutting corners, there's things I would go back and be like, damn it, Russell, just run one more. You know, one more rep, one more set. Okay, I know you're sleepy, but we got a biology test tomorrow. Stick it, you know, just keep going. So, no, it's always very similar when athletes come on here, and it's always like, man, I wish I could go. I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have done one more rep. So I love how it's so much consistency with guys who, it doesn't matter where you were on your path. It's always the same thing. It's like, you think in the moment, I'm pushing myself and I'm working as hard as I can, and then you look back and you're like, man, I could have gave it a little more. It's that relentless pursuit to be great, and that's what I tell boys. It doesn't mean you're going to be great, but it's the mindset of, I'm going to do what I can to separate myself from the next guy, because that's what's going to be the difference. That's exactly what it is. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Jeremy.
Enjoyed it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to The Route. Don't forget to subscribe and connect with us on socials for exclusive updates. We'll see you next week.